Avast you scurvy dogs, and welcome back to TrikBrix. I'm Jamie, and today we're going to conclude the first part of our 30th Anniversary Pirates Retrospective series by taking a look at the last set on my list from the original 1989 wave, 6276 Eldorado Fortress. This beauty contains 506 pieces, 8 minifigures, and retailed for $66 in the US. I've got the instructions here, but even more important, to me at least, I've got the original box. I absolutely love the artwork used here, and the fact that you could actually get a peek at the set while you were still standing in the toy aisle by lifting up the front flap. Maybe some of you guys can help me out, but I'm pretty sure this was the international release version since it lacks the set name on top of the box. But enough of all this, let's get to the main attraction. This thing is just gorgeous. I can tell why it's at or near the top of many people's favorite Pirate Land sets. The whole thing is built on a 32 by 32 raised base plate. This is something we don't see LEGO use anymore, and I know there are a lot of folks out there who don't like them at all, but I think it was a good way to add mass to a build while keeping the piece count and price point down. Plus, nothing says 80s and 90s LEGO like a raised base plate. You can see it's nicely printed all the way around with this rock pattern, and you've even got a bit of blue at the edges to represent water. And to further enhance the tropical island feel, we've got one of my favorite old LEGO builds sprouting from this corner here. Out front, the first place any incoming soldiers and sailors will land is at this dock. It's a pretty simple plate and brick build, but I like how you've got 2 levels here so it can better accommodate both large and small watercraft. Of course, you've got a small set of stairs here to make the transition. But let's get to the fort itself. Like Saber Island before it, Eldorado Fortress makes excellent use of the white and yellow color scheme, and I think it contrasts nicely with the blue coat soldiers. There are actually 2 entrances to the fort, and the main one is over here on the left, at the top of this ramp. I like how these double doors are recessed a bit, flanked by these torches and framed nicely by this large archway. A few windows also adorn the entrance so our soldiers can see who's knocking at the door, and over here on the side, we've got the same printed panel element we saw in Saber Island. And as expected, the doors swing wide open. And once inside, we've got this fairly spacious sort of courtyard area with several features. One of the most obvious being this large grate-covered pit. This swings up to reveal a ton of space down here, which could be used either as storage for weapons, treasure, supplies, etc., or as a deep dark dungeon reserved for only the most notorious pirates. Besides being a great place to use for either of those options, this pit also provides some much needed rigidity to the raised base plate itself, since the plastic isn't overly thick for such a large element. So you can throw the really bad guys down here if you want, but if you've got some whose crimes don't quite merit such drastic punishment, this small jail cell will do the trick. There's plenty of room inside for a few rowdy buccaneers, and the bluecoats were even kind enough to give them a few windows. And up on top is a great place to station watchmen, although you'll have to imagine a way for them to get up here. To the left, we'll find a few more windows in this back wall for your soldiers to peek through, as well as a musket mounted here if they happen to spot something they don't like. And a pile of cannonballs is eagerly awaiting some action, but we'll get back to them in a minute. Moving forward, there's another wall with windows and a musket, and then we have this small tower, which not only houses the fort's secondary entrance, accessed by these yellow stairs out front, it's also home to the dock crane. It can swivel left to right, and of course you've got a string with a hook on the end for attaching to this cargo pallet. I'll bet you can guess what's inside. Yep, 8 beautiful shiny chrome gold coins. Just like the Black Sea's Barracuda, the string isn't actually attached to a winch, but rather it's just tied to this modified plate piece that can be pulled to raise and lower the cargo. When not in use, you simply attach this wherever you see fit. I'm not necessarily opposed to this design, but I think mounting an actual winch somewhere, perhaps on this tower back here, Might be something I do in the future, just for a more realistic look. A couple more lanterns are hanging out on the wall, and the right side features this yellow panel piece with some more brickwork printing. No stickers in this set, which is always nice, and come to think of it, we haven't encountered any stickers since we began this series, so that's a big plus for the early pirate sets. Anyway, you've got another musket here within easy reach, as well as an unused clip for attaching whatever weapon you wish. But muskets aren't the only firepower the Bluecoats have at their disposal. We're actually given 2 cannons in this set. I'll get to the second one in a moment, but first we've got this guy standing guard at the front corner on his own little platform. Mounted on a turntable for precise aiming, there's also a cutlass clipped to one side and a studded bar element on the other, representing a ramrod. And as I pointed out before, that stack of cannonballs is waiting by the jail cell, so our cannoneers aren't without an ample supply of ammunition. And just for good measure, a flintlock hangs on the wall here and another empty clip. But that about does it for the courtyard, so let's take a look at the main tower. Front and center, there's yet another musket, this time mounted on a hinge plate so it can be pointed directly at anyone coming up the ramp. Behind that is some open space for displaying minifigures, as well as a different printed panel, one which we haven't encountered before, this time depicting a brick window frame. To the left is one more lantern, and then the doorway to the interior. I'm not crazy about this big gap here on the side, but I've gotten used to it. Sometimes you just have to remind yourself that the designers were working from a much more limited part selection than they have today, and in some cases, it shows. It's still nice to see that they even attempted the angled 45-degree doorway here. But let's spin this around and take a look inside. Yep, that's the interior. I would have liked to have at least seen a small desk or table here for the governor to sit at, but I guess that wasn't in the parts budget. Luckily, we're dealing with Lego, so you can add whatever sort of interior your imagination can dream up. You also notice that there's no way to get down to the courtyard, but I think I've finally run out of spare ladders, so I'll have to add one later. For now though, let's head up to the roof. Here we'll find the second cannon I mentioned, which enjoys a full 360-degree view of the surroundings. No cutlass clipped to the side on this one, but we do get a ramrod. Not much room left over for soldiers though, and I'd hate to be the poor sap lugging cannonballs all the way up here, especially with no stairs or ladders. And then, finally, capping off Eldorado Fortress, waving proudly in the Caribbean breeze, the Imperial flag. In addition to the main build, we're also given 2 small boats, one for the Bluecoats and one for the pirates. They're both identical, save for the hull color and faction flags. I think it would have been nice if the Imperials had instead gotten a medium-sized boat in this set, somewhere between this and the Caribbean Clipper, but that's something I'll have to add on my own down the road. Surprisingly, this is the only Bluecoat set from the 1989 series that includes pirate minifigures. My guess is that one of them is here to break their captured mate out of the clink. We've seen them both before in this series, so I'll just highlight them quickly. If you'd like a more detailed view of each one, feel free to check out my previous pirate episodes. First and foremost, we get one of my all-time favorite minifigs, Captain Redbeard. Simply one of the most classic characters LEGO has ever developed. And then we've got a member of his crew, who's the most common pirate minifig in the theme. And they've got their work cut out for them with this lot. A total of 4 Imperial soldiers are included, all identical to one another. Their commanding officer, Lieutenant de Martinet, is also here, just to keep everyone in line. And last but certainly not least is Governor Broadside himself, who seems to be enjoying some sort of beverage. Perhaps that's why he hasn't noticed the rescue attempt mounted by the pirates. He's technically exclusive to this set, although as I mentioned before, the only thing differentiating him from his appearance in the Caribbean Clipper is the color of his plume. Here it's red instead of yellow. Of course, everybody gets his fair share of weapons to battle it out with. And that's about it. Eldorado Fortress is simply one of the greatest land-based sets in the pirate line, and it's my personal favorite Bluecoat set by far. It has that timeless classic LEGO aesthetic that so many of today's sets just can't quite achieve. Like many of the pirate offerings, it could benefit from some additional detailing on your end, but even fresh out of the box, this thing is just awesome. And as I illustrated in our Saber Island review, it's made even more amazing when paired with the other predominantly white and yellow Blue Coat sets. If you fancy adding it to your collection, you can expect to pay somewhere around $150 for a used set in decent condition. But be aware, like all vintage sets, and since there's so much white in this one, it's prone to yellowing, so you may need to give it a hydrogen peroxide bath. It's a simple process, and there are some excellent tutorials on YouTube about it. But if you would like to bypass all that and get a brand new sealed set, it's probably only going to set you back about $1,200. So we began this series with a bang by checking out the Black Seas Barracuda, and I think we're finishing up the first leg of our journey in the same fashion. But as we say goodbye to the wave that started it all, what can you expect to see as we go forward with this retrospective? Well, from this point on, every episode is going to be a surprise, because rather than continuing in chronological order, we're just going to jump from set to set. One episode we may take a look at the Skull's Eye schooner from 1993, and the next episode may feature something like the elusive treasure chest from 1996, so it's going to be a fun ride. Oh, and as a side note, I think some of you Adventurers fans are going to be pretty happy in the near future as well. But that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with another awesome vintage LEGO set, but until then, this has been Jamie for TrikBrix. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and play well.